One of the best ways to find investors, cash buyers, is to go on Zillow. You'll look for properties that have been remodeled in the area. I'll find an LLC that owned that house, and then I'll skip straight to the owner's info and then give them a call.
A podcast with Alex Ramosi, who I'm sure you know about. He talks about the biggest bottleneck in your business. The business owner needs to dedicate the first 90 minutes of every day undistracted to solving that bottleneck. All right, welcome back to the Built for Profit podcast. I am fired up today to have Jaben on board with me here. We were just chatting a little bit beforehand about what he does in business, how he got started. He's calling in from Scottsdale, Arizona. But yeah, I'm super excited to dive into the weeds of his whole real estate empire that he's building. So, Jaben, welcome to the podcast here. And so, if you want to just kind of start us out, let us know who Jaben is, how you got started, and kind of how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in a small town in Nebraska. And
Let's
my
go.
grandpa, I grew up around pools because my grandpa installed pools. And so I had my eyes set on that. I'm like, I want to start a pool company eventually. So I decided to move out to Arizona right out of high school, right when I turned 18. So I moved down here to learn the ropes of a pool company. Started working for them for a few months, and I was like, man, this is not what I want to do the rest of my life, right? The owner of that company is probably in his 60s, and when guys would call out sick, he'd have to go and actually clean the pools. And what I know now, that's not how a business has to be. If it was set up right, it wouldn't be like that. But when I was younger, I was like, this is how it would be, I guess, for the rest of my life. So I don't want to do this. I had remembered I read a book about real estate investing in high school. And I'm like, I'm gonna figure out how to make a bunch of money, go buy a bunch of houses and get rich, be able to retire young. So I went and got my real estate license. I thought that'd be the best route to go. That couldn't have been further from the truth, right? It
Yeah.
took a couple years. It wasn't super consistent income. And my biggest downfall was shiny object syndrome for that 3 years that I was an agent.
Yeah.
So I was the guy that wanted to start a new business every few months, right? You name it. I wanted to be a stockbroker. I wanted to do Amazon FBA, drop shipping. Like you name it, I probably tried it or I had thought about it.
Yeah.
So if you're getting started in business, definitely just pick one thing, go all in for the next 3 to 5 years. And I promise you'll wake up one day and you'll be like, wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I started Onyx Investments a little over 2 years ago now. We have about 5 sales guys on the team, transaction coordinator. So we're doing, somewhere around 4 deals every single month.
Cool. I love it. Yeah, Jaben. So you mentioned something right there that I think is so powerful because have the shiny object syndrome as well, man. I actually meet with a group of guys actually this morning on Wednesdays at a coffee shop, and all of us tend to have that because new ideas come across all the time. They're all business owners, and we're like, we should go chase this, chase that. But there is just so much power in consistently focusing on one thing to let it be your bread and butter winner. So I love that you mentioned that, man, because I think a lot of people obviously when you have the opportunity to go pursue different things where you're chasing dollars or whatever, it looks so shiny in the moment, but you just never really make progress in a lot of areas when you're trying to build a billion different bridges to the same island, you know?
Yeah, one of my biggest downfalls there. So I saw there's always these Instagram posts. So I'm 18, 19 years old, and they're saying all these millionaires have 7 streams of income. So there I was with no money. I'm like, I got to get a bunch of streams of income to become a
Yeah.
million. But what I figured out now is that all these millionaires got really freaking good at one thing, dove all into it, and then once they had the time, the resources, they started investing in other things to bring in
Yep.
those other streams of income.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think that's brilliant. You have that one thing that actually creates the other streams of income once you add the surplus from the one thing, man. That's good. Okay, so tell us a little bit, obviously, how y'all serve people, what that looks like, and kind of walk me through your process of what you've been building over the past 2 years.
Yeah, so we do what's called wholesaling, and a lot of people go direct to sellers. So what they'll do, they'll send out mailers, they'll do Google pay-per-click leads, they'll cold call these sellers. But what we figured out is that like 80% of homeowners go online when they want to sell a house, and they're going to search for a realtor, or
Yeah.
they're going to call a friend and family member and ask for a referral to a realtor.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in. So we call up these agents, and we talk to agents every single day, and we provide value by being a cash offer resource for them. So when they get leads that come in, like a lot of times they're just, getting leads for traditional listings or traditional buyers. But once in a while, these leads will come in and the house is, trashed. It wouldn't make a good fit for the MLS, or maybe they're getting foreclosed on. They need to be out in 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
that's when they think of us, and they'll call us and we'll make a cash offer on that property, and we'll get that seller out of a tricky situation. We'll get the agent paid typically 3% on the commission. And then once we have that property under contract, we'll actually go out and find an end buyer. So an investor that's typically going to fix and flip it, and they'll pay us a premium for the property. And so we're providing value to, essentially three different parties, right? The seller, the agent, and then these flippers, because they rely on guys like me to go out and find these deals, because what they're
Yeah.
good at is fix and flipping. A lot of them don't have the experience or know how to go out and talk to these agents or go direct to seller.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So, if you're okay with it, I'd love to dive into kind of those 3 areas, mainly, I guess, on the front end side of, cold calling or finding your list of agents that you're literally networking with. And then on the inside, I'm curious how you're also finding those investors. So can you walk us through the first standpoint? Are you literally just like getting out and cold calling like agents all over the country? Or like, how are you getting the word out about y'all providing value by buying cash offers on houses that need this wholesale flip mentality?
Yeah, so there's three different ways to find realtors, right? So you're going to go on market. So typically on Zillow, you're going to look for properties that are just listed or they've been on a while, and you call them up. You kind of have something to talk about, which is that property. You're not really interested in that property, but you're trying to build a connection, and it gets your foot in the door. You have something to talk
Yeah.
about. Then you can buy lists. There's places like Batch Leads. You can go to a title company, pull lists of realtors, and then you can just cold call through those lists. And then
Okay.
number three is cold texting, right? You'll reach out to
Mm,
them via text, and then the goal is to ultimately get them on the phone.
got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes complete sense.
One of the best ways to find investors, cash buyers, is to go on Zillow, right? You'll look for properties that have been remodeled in the area. So let's say we
Mhm.
lock up a deal in Charlotte, North Carolina, in a specific area. I'll go and search that address up, and then I'll look at surrounding houses that have sold in the last 6 months that have been remodeled, and I find a house that's been remodeled, I'll scroll down and see that a flipper more than likely bought it because they just bought it at a discount 6 to 12 months ago, and they just resold it remodeled right there. So then I'll
Yeah.
go online, I'll skip, I'll find the LLC that owned that house, and then I'll
Yeah.
skip trace the owner's info and then give them a call. But if
Cool.
you're just getting started out wholesaling or real estate investing, wholesaling specifically, I would say focus on acquisitions first, right? Don't get distracted with dispositions yet. You can
Yeah.
find a bigger company that has a massive buyers list, and then you just send the deals to them and you partner up with them. So get that acquisition machine running, because it's like what we're talking about before, where you pick one thing and get really good at it. And it's
Yeah.
exactly what you did. I went all in on acquisitions, and now we're to the point where we're building out the disposition side, which is where we go and actually find the investors. So lock the
Yeah.
deals up and send them to a company that can actually go and find the buyer for you while you focus on getting that acquisition machine running on itself.
Yeah, that's great. So you talked about your 5 guys, commission sales guys. Is that their main focus, is what they're going out and finding acquisitions all day, every day?
Yeah, that's all they do is acquisitions. Right now, I'm still in sales doing dispositions. I just am pretty much out of the acquisitions. Like I'm still working my way out a little bit, so
Yeah.
a little bit of that stuff every day, but primarily focused on dispositions now. So building up our buyers list. And here later this year, we're going to start hiring for that and kind of do the same thing that I've done with acquisitions over the last 2 years.
Cool. Okay. I love that, man. Okay, I forgot to ask at the beginning, was the book Rich Dad Poor Dad that got you into real estate, or what was the book you read in high school that kinda spurred this whole idea to start doing real estate?
It was actually a book by Brandon Turner. I don't remember
Really?
exactly which one it was, but it was
Yeah.
a book by him about rental property investing.
Oh, yeah, man. I used to be an avid consumer of Bigger Pockets, man, for a long time. So,
Yeah.
I think he's no longer doing that anymore. But yeah, he's a fantastic guy. It's been fun to listen to him for a journey. But that's cool that that was his book that got you kicked off in this whole world. Well, cool, man. Well, so tell me what you're dreaming about, dude. What does Onyx look like? 5, 10 years from now? Is it something that obviously 2 years in, but what are you dreaming about?
Yeah, so I have obviously 5 and 10 year goals, but what's most important to me right now is our 2 year goal. That's kind of our
Okay.
North Star. It's what we base all our decisions off of. It's what we talk about literally every single day. And that North Star is $1 million a month, right? That's what we're shooting for. And in order to get there, we're going to need to get our systems dialed in and our recruitment engine dialed in. And we're getting that figured out right now. Our systems are getting pretty good, but it's not quite to the point where we could just plug somebody in and they can get it running on their own. The recruiting, that's been getting better over the last few months compared to 6 to 12 months ago when we were first getting rolling. Like now
Mhm.
we have a consistent stream of candidates, but we need to get that to the point where it's a lot more candidates just coming at like an unlimited flood of these candidates that we can hire and pick from.
Yeah, that's good, man. I think there's so much power in the, like you mentioned, the North Star principle, that the whole team knows exactly what the end goal, phrase, put a man on the moon type mentality to say, this is the deadline date that we got to hit this mark at, and that everybody applies what they're doing in the role, the unique role that they're in, to achieve this North Star. So do y'all have like a cadence of how often y'all meet to kind of review on track, off track? You do like a weekly team meeting, or can you kind of talk to how y'all keep that North Star the North Star?
Mhm. Yeah, so I actually learned this from Matt Rulak, and I want to talk about that North Star because I wasn't talking about it near enough, right? So I had these big goals in my head, but nobody really knew about them. Like maybe they did when they first started. So what he said was we got to meet once a week. So we do a weekly team meeting every Monday, and I'm almost driving it into them to the point where they're getting annoyed with me. So I'll talk about
Yeah.
where we're going, which is the $1 million a month, and then we'll talk about our 10 strategic operating principles, and then we'll go through our core values, and that's literally every Monday, and we'll kind of mix it in with some other meetings, and to talk a little bit more about the meeting cadence, right? So we were doing it once a week. Then we'd have a huddle every morning for like 15 minutes to practice role playing and stuff. But one of our biggest bottlenecks was getting our ramp up time from it's like 60 to 90 days. We're trying to bring that down as much as possible. So I actually implemented some more meetings, right? So on Tuesdays, we'll do call reviews. Wednesdays, will be sales training. Thursday, we'll do a skill workshop. So we pick just one thing, whether that's a certain piece of the script. And then on Fridays, we'll actually do a deal desk where we talk about any deals we're close on and how we can help. And so that's actually helped a ton over the last couple of weeks since I've implemented that. I'm seeing guys like I have one guy that came in with literally no sales experience. He kind of struggled the first 90 days, and I'm seeing him make leaps and bounds
Yeah.
with just talking from his tonality, the way he talks to these agents. Like it's just night and day difference.
Yeah, Jaben, I love that so much. I think having those theme days, yeah, I mean, it's awesome that you have this rhythm in your business where you say, like, on Thursdays, this is what we do. On Fridays, this is what we do. And people almost just come to expect it, to like prep for those meetings, understand how to get value and extract value from those meetings. I think there is so much power because I can't tell you how many business owners I've talked to where, because there's just so much chaos and they're putting out fires nonstop all day, every day, there's no time to strategize in their business at all, or even think about a North Star, or they're just in survival mode. So I think for you, 2 years into business, still building very fresh at the very beginning of kind of where you're at, and being disciplined enough to implement things that is going to pay off long-term dividends, there's a massive power in that. I've seen the same fruit from us. We have an all team meeting on Mondays, just like y'all do. And then we have literally huddles and touch points that are themed all throughout the rest of the week, every day, to make sure our team's aligned. We're understanding where we're at. We actually do implement this thing called a one thing. So everybody has one focus for the day to say, if I could only complete this one thing, it would make today a masterpiece. And it just helps all of us stay aligned with what we should be doing of our roles to act together as a team. So I love
Oh,
that, man. I think that's great.
and you mentioned one thing right there where you're talking about most business owners are just fighting fires.
Yeah.
I battled with that for a little bit, right? So I had guys coming in, knocking on my door, like I get started on a project or I'm trying to do something, and then I get 10 questions within the hour that I'm actually doing something, or my phones get blown up. So I talked to one of my coaches. I'm like, what the heck do I do? Because I can't get anything done as people constantly tapping me on the shoulder. So one thing I implemented was when my office door is closed, you're not allowed to knock on my door unless it's an emergency, right? You need to text
Yeah.
me and I'll get back to you when I get back to you, because I have these set blocks in my calendar, which are I label as deep work. And that's my time
Love
to
it.
get heads down, put my phone on do not disturb and no distractions. Cause that's what actually moves the company forward.
Yeah, that's so good, Jamin. I think, have you read Cal Newport's book called Deep Work?
I have not. No, I'll have to
Dude,
check
it's
that out.
funny you call it deep work. I mean, he literally has a whole book dedicated to the power of that, of basically the power of not being distracted and like allowing your brain to go deep for 90 plus minutes at a time. And it's so funny. Correlating with that, I actually heard the other day from a podcast with Alex Ramosi, who I'm sure you know about. But he talks about the biggest bottleneck in your business. The business owner needs to dedicate the first 90 minutes of every day undistracted to solving that bottleneck. And I thought it was a brilliant way to tackle it. It's the first thing you do for the day. You do it before, the team comes in or whatever, just to put dedicated focus. And I love what you're doing, is saying, like, put your phone on do not disturb. Let's focus in on what I need to focus in on. That is the deep work that actually moves the needle forward in your business. I think that's a brilliant way to live, man. I love that you're doing that 2 years into your business and in the whole building the world, man. I love it. So, okay, speaking of momentum and bottlenecks. You mentioned a little bit on the bottleneck side, but I'm curious, what do you feel like you have momentum in right now for your business and what's working well?
Just seeing the success of my team has been awesome the last few months because like 6 to 12 months ago, I'm starting to get the ball rolling, but not really. Right. I'd have one guy that I'd scaled up to like 3 or 4 guys. Then I have to fire 2 guys and then one quits. Then it's just me and one other guy again. That happened like 2 different times, but we're finally at the point where these sales guys out here are actually producing. The energy is phenomenal. Like before, it was me having to go out there and bring everybody up and raise the energy.
Yeah.
It's just dead out there. Now it's like the guys are loud. There's music going. Like it's a lot of freaking fun now.
Yeah, that's great, man. I love that. There's something so special about the right culture in the right season of your business, and just energy feeding off energy, man. I love that so much. Okay, so then on the bottleneck side, is your main focus right now the disposition side of it and trying to figure out and build a team behind that? Or is there anything else that comes to mind?
That and then the 60 to 90 day ramp up time, which I was talking
Oh,
about
yeah,
earlier,
yeah. Yeah.
just bringing that in, which I think we might have that figured out, but it's been several weeks since I've implemented the training. We've seen it working, but it's kind of too soon to tell if that'll fix that bottleneck or not.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's good. Well, cool. So for you as the owner, is there anything that or like metrics or KPIs that you consistently look at to say like, okay, if I can gauge these numbers, I know our team's healthy, our business is healthy, and I know if it's on track, off track. Can you kind of speak to that? And I guess how often you're viewing numbers like that?
hmm Yeah, numbers are the most important things. Like that's one of our strategic operating principles is we operate based on data and not feelings, right? And it's helped us solve so many bottlenecks with the guys and realizing where they're screwing up and what they need to fix. But the 5 main metrics that we track are number one, qualified realtors. So how many agents are we talking to on a daily basis that know, like, and trust us and allow
Yeah.
us to follow up with them? Number two is going to be talk time, right? And
Okay.
that the minimum here, like the minimum standard to stay on our team is about an hour and a half. And that's a time actually talking to people, right? A lot of
Yeah.
dialers will just track time spent on the dialer. This is time actually spent talking to people, which we can track through our CRM.
Mm.
Number three is going to be conversations. And then these last two, they're a little less out of our control, but if these first three things are in order, these last two are going to fall. And that's total deal leads sent to us. So off market properties we get sent, and then offers made. And out of about 20 deal leads sent to us, we'll offer on about 10 of those. And of those 10, we'll lock up one property. So we just
Okay.
reverse engineer those numbers, and we can basically, I can basically tell the guys how many calls and stuff they need to make in order to be doing X amount of deals every single month.
Yeah, that's so valuable, man, to have that data. I love the whole we go off data, not off gut, man. It's like I feel like that's true. I mean, every business owner needs to implement that mentality because it's the only thing that's actually going to move the ball forward. I feel like in business because so many people have gut feelings about things that may or may not be true in their business, and the data's got to be the one that backs it up. That's cool, man. I'm
Yep.
curious when you're thinking through, building the company, prioritizing profit, building a system around that. How do once you get the deal come in and y'all close the deal, do y'all have a certain system or formula that says like, this is how we create the profit that we need to sustain growth and get where you want to get?
So I've got like percentages of where the money's going to go right after everybody's paid out. We have that money in. But one thing I've really struggled with on the profitability is figuring out how much to reinvest, right? Because
Yeah.
how fast we're trying to grow, there's not a lot of companies out there doing that. So
Yeah.
we definitely have to be reinvesting a lot of money into the company.
Yeah.
But if we reinvest too much, we could find ourselves in a really, really bad spot if we had to have a bad month. And then
Yeah.
on the flip side, if I be too conservative, then we're just gonna get stagnant and I'm not investing any money. We're gonna go flat and we're not gonna be growing where we need to be growing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good, man. I think there's definitely a balance there to what we kind of talk about with our clients is once you have up that sleep at night bank account, right? Where you're like, worst case scenario, I feel comfortable based on what this number shows in my bank account. Then anything above that, especially in growth mode, you're literally just reinvesting every surplus above that amount back into the business, back into the business, back into the business. So I think as y'all, like you said, continue to grow and figure out that margin of what that looks like for y'all, I think you can definitely reinvest that growth from there. I think that's beautiful.
Right.
Well,
It's tough too with how fast we're growing because that number's constantly going up, right? Our
yeah,
monthly spread keeps going up as we hire more guys because we got the CRM, we got more marketing spent. So everything just keeps going up. So that number is keeps increasing.
Yeah, I know, and that's true, man. And we both, you and I have heard it said before, just from old Dan Martell, that basically, if you're growing significantly as a business, you just have to expect things to break every 6 months or less, right?
Mm,
it's
yep.
it's the profit and margin and the sleep at night number, all those things are the exact same way too, right? Where you're reevaluating consistently, sometimes more times than just once a month to figure out, okay, what's our new benchmark? What's our new benchmark? To make sure that we're staying healthy as a company, man. I love that so
Yeah.
much. Well, cool. And then I'm curious for you, is there anything that, like, in your journey over the 2 years, how has your focus or maybe even your niche mentality to say, how has that changed from where you were day one to where you're at the end of year two? Saying, like, maybe you were saying yes to every single deal that would come in the door because you just needed money to come in versus like you've crafted it more for your like ideal client scenario. So, like, kind of walk us through that process and how that's possibly changed over the past 2 years.
Yeah, so we've changed quite a few things, right? We're constantly evolving. Like you said, stuff is breaking every few months. But one of the more recent things that has helped us a lot is focusing on motivated sellers only. Like we get bogged
Yep.
down with properties that are on market, people that aren't motivated, houses that are halfway remodeled. And now and stuff that's way out in rural areas that will take forever to sell and it'll
Yeah.
bog our sales system down. So now the guys are just focused on stuff that usually within 30 to 45 minutes of a main metro area. They're looking for, you know, typically 2 to 3 different things, which is condition of the house. Is this house trashed or is it super outdated? Or is it maybe remodeled and it wouldn't make a good fit? Number two would be motivation, right? Is it a house that they have plenty of time to sell, or do they need to be out a couple of weeks? Or maybe the house was just inherited and they don't want to deal with it. Like that's good motivation. So if it's both of those things, it's a really good opportunity. If it's one thing and not the other, like it's a decent opportunity that we'll still pursue. And then obviously the last one like, is price, because you
Yeah.
could have both of those things, and if they're still outrageous on price, it just isn't going to click.
Yeah, makes so much sense, man. I think that's so smart to learn and qualify as early as possible, like y'all are doing, to understand should we continue this conversation or move to the next one to make sure guys aren't wasting time, man. I love it. Okay, I have to ask, obviously, as we're all in this world of AI and trying to leverage it to the best of our ability. I'm curious, have you seen anything that's working well, or are you trying to implement any AI stuff into your world in the business world?
Yeah, if you're not using AI right now, you're going to be left behind here in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm trying to get all my guys to do is use ChatGPT. Like I
Yep.
use that on my own every single day. They're
Good.
out there crafting text messages and stuff with AI, which is super basic. But I think
Yeah.
everybody should be doing at least that. And then another thing that we're working on that hopefully will be released here in the next couple of months is an AI texting platform. So what it actually does is reached out to realtors for us, and they built a connection via text, and then it'll continue to follow up with these agents until they have a property. And once they text us the property, it'll ask the 4 pillars, which is the 4 pillars that we ask on every property, which is price, condition, motivation, and then time frame. And
Yeah.
then once it gets all that information from that agent, then it'll actually notify us that there's a hot deal, and then we
Wow.
can go and actually call that agent and lock that property up.
Yeah, man, that is, I feel like from the systems that you're building based on the nature of y'all's business, there's probably a lot of ways you can start leveraging AI to that standpoint, just for your guys to spend time where they are providing the most unique value and having a machine do the rest of the qualifying work like you were talking about, man. That's super exciting. I know you're excited about getting a machine to do that stuff as well, man. That's cool. Well, cool. As we wrap up a little bit, is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you're just kind of fired up about or learning in this season?
Yeah, I'd say there's one thing I learned a few months back. And if you're starting a business, you should definitely implement this. But it's picking one of the most important pieces every single quarter and going all in on that, right? Putting like 80 to 90% effort in that. So
Yep.
if you have a project that you're trying to get done, don't start 2 or 3 different projects at once and try and finish them each quarter. Just go all in on one project each quarter, and you're gonna get way more done than the person who's spread too thin trying to do several different things at once.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So do y'all have that discussion as a team as well to say, like, what's the one thing for this quarter as a company, or do y'all even split it out from an individual standpoint and kind of talk us through how y'all prioritize that?
So a lot of it's between my assistant slash TC and I,
Yeah.
like what's driving the company forward, because a lot of what they're focused on is sales. But what you were saying earlier that you do with your team, where they pick one thing every single day, that's
Yeah.
what we do as well. So it's more sales focused, like hitting X amount of numbers or going above and beyond on the talk time, whatever it may be. And that's their one focus every single day. They're not really working on any projects or anything like my assistant and I are.
Yeah, that's good, man. I love that so much. So to kind of to back that up, I love it seems like you and I kind of run things fairly similarly with our teams because there's another fantastic book called The One Thing, and that's where we stole this idea from. But basically our team's doing their one thing every day. We actually also do a one thing every week and a one thing every quarter that aligns with the long-term goals of the business. And what we do is the company has a one thing for the quarter, and then all of us individually as a team have our own one thing for that quarter that aligns with what the company's one thing is. And so it allows all of us to say, like, okay, if we literally, like you said, put 80 or 90% focus towards this one thing rather than try to build all these different things, then if we literally accomplish one big thing every quarter, four things every year that aligns with our long term goals, then we're going to be crushing it all day, every day. And so I love that y'all are implementing that stuff as well, man. I think there's so much power in that.
I love that. And you got to really get the calendar dialed in as well, because if you don't have it in your calendar every day, like you were saying earlier, that's what I do is I'll set my deep work time in the morning. I had it in the afternoon up until recently, a couple of weeks ago, and it was like I wasn't at my most productive in the afternoon. So I moved that to first thing when I get into the office in the morning at 6:30 is I'm doing that deep work and focusing on that most important thing for the quarter.
Yeah. That's so good, man. I heard years ago on a podcast, uh, time management versus energy management. And energy management is a very real thing, right? So you have to figure out for you specifically, what are the optimum times of the day where you're most focused, right? A lot of people right after lunch, you're about to fall asleep. So you probably shouldn't put your deep work right after lunch, right? Or whatever it is. And so I think you figuring that unique to you is just so powerful because then you can schedule your calendar around that and dictate your day around your highest energy times, and then have the other times of the day where you're not as focused or sharp to do other things that are not as urgent or important. So I love that, man. That's powerful.
Yep.
Well, cool, Jamie. Well, if people want to hear more about you or just reach out to you somehow, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, DM me the word Austin and then on Instagram, Jaben_makings, and I'll send you the wholesaling contract that I use to lock up all of our properties here.
I love that, man. That's awesome. So DM the word Austin on Instagram, and we'll put your Instagram handle in the profile. And so, cool, Jamie. Well, thanks so much for having the conversation, man. I loved obviously chatting with you, and appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Austin.